Hi and welcome to the first hands-on video of this class. You are dying to start building your website, I know, but first we need to talk about the tools we are going to use. To build an HTML website, the only thing we really need is a code editor. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code here, but you can use any other editor of your choice, like Sublime, Atom, or the one you like. If you want to use Visual Studio Code, you can get it in that URL. Just download it and install it. Nothing complicated here, just clicking a couple of buttons. Although a code editor is the only required tool we need, there is another tool we are going to be using a lot, and it is Chrome Web Development Tools. You don't have to install it. It comes with Chrome. Just open Chrome and hit F12 if you are on Windows, or Command Option Y if you are in Mac, and you are ready to go. Take a couple of minutes to install Visual Studio Code if you haven't done it yet, and please come back. I will be waiting for you on my computer to start working with Visual Studio Code and Web Dev Tools. When we open Visual Studio, this is what we see. This is just a welcome screen. We can close it. Now let's press Command B, Control B if you're in Windows, and this is going to show the File Explorer. So here we will see any file we have opened inside Visual Studio Code. Now let's press Command J or Control J if you are in Windows, and we will see the console here. There are different windows. The one we want is the terminal one. This terminal is the same terminal you have in your computer. Okay, the terminal in Mac and the command prompt in Windows. What we are going to do now is create the folders and files we need for our website. You can create those files in the Windows Explorer or in Finder if you are in Mac, but I like to use the terminal, and this is what I'm going to do. I encourage you to use the terminal too. It is fast and it is always good to learn something new. So let's do it. This is a working directory, meaning the directory where we are now. Probably we don't want to create the folder containing our project in that directory, so we have to navigate to the directory we want. First thing we are going to do is to list the directories or the folders that this working directory contains. In Windows, you will use dir, and in Mac, we use ls. What we see here are all the folders that are inside that folder here. I want to create my project inside the Sonia folder, so I have to navigate to that one. We do it with the cd command and the destination folder, which is Sonia in that case. So now, as you can see, my working directory is Sonia. If I list it, I have all the folders that this folder contains. And this is where I want to create my project. So I need to create a new folder. To do that, mkdir. This is the same command for Windows and Mac. And the name of the folder we want to create, which in my case is going to be my web. So now, if I list the directory, my web is here. If I want to navigate to that folder, again, cd and the name of the folder, which is my web. What if I want to navigate one level up? cd dot if you are in Windows, and cd space dot if you are in Mac. So now I'm back to Sonia. Let's go back to our project directory, cd my web. And now let's create some files in here. The terminal doesn't have a command to create a file, but we can use a little trick, and it is to try to write something in a file that doesn't exist. We use the command echo, which is a command for writing something. Then we write whatever we want to write into the directory, that little arrow symbol, and the name of the file. In that case, we want to create our main HTML file, which is index.html. Now, if we list our directory, there it is. We need to create two more files, one for the CSS and one for the JavaScript. We can create them the same way, but I'm going to show you another way of doing that. And this is using the code command line. We write code and the name of the file we want to create, which is style CSS. And here we go. The file has been created and opened. Can you see that dot here? This is because the file is not saved. We need to save it. If we don't save it, it doesn't exist yet. Now command save to save it. When you see the cross here is because it has been saved. Here it is. Probably if you are in Mac and this is the first time you are using code, you will get an error when trying to use code. This is because on Mac you have to do a little setup. Press Command Shift P, right here shell, and look for that command, shell command install code command and path. This is what we are looking for. Just select it and you are ready to go. Now try to use the code command again and it should work. So we have the index.html file, the style CSS, and we need to create the JavaScript file. I'm going to use the code command, scripts.js. Again, the file has been created, but I have to save it. Let's list our directory. And here we can see the 3 files we need for our website. We need the index.html, which should be called index.html, and then we have the JavaScript file and the CSS file. Both the JavaScript file and the CSS file can be named whatever you want. We only have one HTML file because we are creating a one-page website. As we are going to use some images in our web page, let's create a directory to store those images. mkdir images. Nice. We know how to create directories. Let's see how to remove them. Just type rmdir and the name of the directory, images. Our directory is not there anymore. Let's create it again. mkdir images. Oops, I misspelled it. Let's remove it. And here we go. This is all we need to create our website. Visual Studio Code is a pretty complete code editor, but we are going to use only a fraction of its functionalities. So don't worry about all the menu items or the icons you see here. We will learn how to use what we need when we need it. We will come back to Visual Studio later, but now let me show you one of the most useful tools when working with HTML and CSS, which is Chrome Web Development Tools. Now let's open Chrome and go to any website you want. I have one to mine, which is Code with Sonia, but you can go wherever you want. And press F12 if you are on Windows, or Command-Alt-Y if you're on Mac. And this will show the Web Dev Tools. Web Dev Tools is a very complete tool with a lot of functionalities, but we are going to use basically 2 of them. The Elements, which allows you to see the HTML of a page and the associated CSS of any of those elements, as you can see here. And the Console, which allows you to basically execute JavaScript code. Let's see an example. If I want to know which is the HTML I have used to build that element here, I just select it, and what I can see here is the HTML that corresponds to that element and the associated CSS, the CSS that corresponds to that element. For example, that class here is the one that sets the color for that element, so we can change it. We select this and go, for example, red, and you can check how that element is going to look in red. This is a very interesting functionality because it allows you to see how things will look before you actually write the code. Those changes I do here are going to stay here until I refresh the page. If I refresh it, they disappear. We will be using that Elements tool a lot, and you will learn how to use it as we need it. Just let me show you something about the Console. The Console is a tool we use when we work with JavaScript because it can execute JavaScript. If I write any JavaScript in the console, it is going to be executed. This is an operation and this is JavaScript, so it is executed. Of course, this is not the kind of JavaScript code we are going to use the most when building a website. We are going to use more something like this. Don't worry too much about that code now. we are telling JavaScript to hide any p element if we click on it. For example, this is a p element. If I click on it, it is hidden. Don't worry too much about that now. We will learn how to use it as we need it, as I said. I just want to show you what Web DevTools is. Another interesting thing is that with Web DevTools, you can see how your website is going to look in a mobile device. This is how my website is going to look in iPhone 6 or 7. If you prefer to show Web DevTools in the bottom, you can do it like this, or you can even make it a floating window. Okay? And this is enough about Web DevTools for now. We will be using these tools a lot, so don't worry, you will learn a lot about them as we need it. In this video, we have met the two tools we are going to be using to build our website. They are Visual Studio Code and Chrome Web DevTools. To launch Web DevTools, remember F12 if you're on Windows and Command Option Y if you're on Mac. We have seen two shortcuts we are going to use a lot when working with Visual Studio Code. Ctrl B or Command B if you're on Mac to launch the File Explorer, and Ctrl J or Command J for Mac to launch the console. We have also learned a couple of commands to work with the terminal. dir if you're on Windows or ls if you're on Mac to list the files in a directory, cd ... or cd space ... for Mac to go to a parent directory, also cd and the name of the directory to go to a child directory, mkdir and the name of the directory to create a directory, and rmdir and the name of the directory to remove it. And finally, we have seen how to create files from the terminal. The first thing we saw is a trick to create a file by trying to write something to a file that doesn't exist using the echo command. And we also saw how to create a file using the code command and the name of the file we want to create. And this is it for our first video. Thanks for watching, and I see you in the next one.